Hello! You are on the Masterclass 1966 channel. You are currently watching a voiced video that has been translated into English. I apologize if some words do not accurately convey the meaning. The topic of today's video will be devoted to how you can independently descale debris inside a metal sole from an iron. They were ironed once a month at home, not in the studio. The owners treated him carefully for 13 years. And yet, as you can see, that's how much lint has accumulated during this time. But through the hole I show you the inner dark scale inside the sole under the aluminum lid. And here I show how inside the metal ceramic sole, in small and large holes, especially through the large ones, where the main stream of steam enters, everything is clogged with debris and scale. I've watched many other videos, but I still haven't seen how to remove debris and scale inside the sole of the iron with absolute guarantee. After all, no one shows what happens inside after washing with citric acid or other chemicals. Since I had no experience in this case, I decided to repeat what is shown in other videos. I disassembled the leak and put the sole in a frying pan with 1 packet of citric acid. The boiled water in the kettle was immediately poured into a frying pan with citric acid. As soon as the water boiled in the pan, I waited 3 minutes and turned off the gas. I started this procedure with washing the sole of the iron due to the fact that the steam flow began to leave the holes badly, and decided to rinse the inside of the sole, as shown in other videos. As you can see, I do not fill the contacts with this liquid, and in general, do not touch them again. From evening to morning, the sole was soaked in the same liquid with citric acid. I took it out of this water and showed you how much dirt there was. We do not pour out the liquid from the pan with citric acid. It will still be useful to us. Transfer it to another container. On inspection, I see remnants of scale inside. I unscrew the watering can from the flexible hose. I'm preparing the hose for flushing. I show that a stream of water should be directed into each hole on the sole. Since each hole inside the sole of the iron has its own water and steam supply channel, turn on the hot-cold water at full capacity and rinse the inner part of the sole with a jet of pressurized water. Thoroughly rinse everything. It will take 5 to 10 minutes. Naturally, the hands, face, and body part will be splashed with water. Each hole, large and small for steam to escape, is additionally rinsed with a stream of water, since there are many slags left inside from the detached dirt. A stream of water washed away a certain cloth. It wasn't until a little later that I found out what it was. It is installed under the aluminum mesh on all modern irons. I do not know what it is installed there for. Music. I inspect the contacts for turning on the iron. If there is a plaque, I clean it up. After drying, I inspect the inside of the sole of the iron through the hole. And if you look closely, you can see a small plaque. This is how the inside of the sole looks like when viewed through the steam outlet. Unfortunately, it is impossible to clean the inside of the sole of the iron with 1 sachet of citric acid. Although, if you look through the hole inside, it seems that everything is clean there. But this is not the case. Black carbon deposits on ceramics are removed using a special pencil for an iron. I'm checking the functionality of the switch. Next, I inspect the inside of the sole from another iron. The wash was a single sachet of citric acid. And that's the result. Areas with scale are still visible inside the holes. And these were to solace from irons with minimal scale inside. And I bought this non-working iron from my hands for 150 rubles. The aluminum rivets that hold the top aluminum lid, I used a grinder. But on this sole, I drilled the aluminum rivets with a drill bit. Cutting aluminum rivets with a grinder turned out to be much easier than drilling with a drill. After removing and scraping the heat-resistant sealant along the edges of the brown lid, after the grinder, lift the lid with a little effort. And if the rivets are drilled, then the lid rises much easier. Lifting the aluminum lid a little, I look at what's inside. What kind of scale? A small aluminum mesh had popped off the rivets and was hanging loose inside. And here I show you what kind of scum was on the aluminum lid. I show that, in addition to the aluminum mesh, there were some flat pieces and strange little rings. As I found out later, it was a heat-resistant fabric with scum embedded in it, and small little rings that fell off from the aluminum sole, where steam escapes. I replaced the aluminum sole cap, then put it in a frying pan and poured 1 sachet of citric acid. After the water boils and cools down, I look at what scale is left inside. And there's quite a lot of it left. After that, I decided to repeat the washing of this sole, but with 3 sachets of citric acid. Pour the boiled water from the kettle into the pan with the sole, after which the water in the pan on the gas stove should boil for 3 to 4 minutes, no more. Otherwise, the ceramics on the sole will turn white. As you can see, even 3 sachets of citric acid do not remove all the plaque and scale inside the sole of the iron. After drying, I scrape off the remaining scale with a screwdriver, thereby demonstrating how much scale remains inside. After that, I made a final conclusion. No matter how much citric acid I put to sleep, it cannot remove all the scale inside the sole of the iron. Nevertheless, as you can see, 3 sachets of citric acid still partially remove scale and dirt. I tear off the aluminum sole with ceramic applied to it to see how the grooves inside have been cleaned of scale and debris. On this sole, the aluminum lining came off quite easily, since the aluminum rivets on the holes had long since fallen off. Next, on the other sole, I'll show you what holes should be on the aluminum lining. And on this plate, the rivets on the holes are not visible. And here's the other sole. The pad comes off very hard due to the fact that all the steam outlet rivets are in place. When opening the aluminum lining from the base, the aluminum rivets were partially torn off. And I also show you how steam from the main sole passes through the grooves inside to the small holes. The glue is like dried rubber. It turned out to be a heat-resistant sealant that prevents moisture and steam from escaping outside the sealed sole. But the steam channels on different irons are located in different ways. Even a file from one company, but with a different number, has a different drawing, a diagram of the technique of steam supply channels to small holes. Each number is different. The torn aluminum plate bends with little effort, and the ceramic applied to the aluminum plate does not burst, as soon as it broke and fell off from the end. But in general, ceramics on aluminum soles hold up well. Having failed with citric acid, I decided to use another chemical. I bought this product in a store like this. For further testing, I purchased a non-working irons and marked them so as not to confuse them. After opening the lids, I show you how much scale and slag turned out to be inside, and the small nets in the middle of the sole are in their regular places on the 2 rivets. This time I decided to start the experiment with 2 sachets at once. After boiling, settling and drying, a certain scale still remained inside the sole. Apparently, a lot depends on how much scale of slag is inside the sole. After opening the ceramic outsole, a small amount of scale and slag also remained inside the steam channels. And now I'm going to experiment on a second similar sole, but with 3 descaling bags, designed mainly for washing machines. And as you can see for yourself, this is the best result. Scum, of course, remains in some places, but it will be impossible to achieve a better result. And if you have a desire to use 4 or even 5 sachets per 1.1 liters, there will be no harmful effects on the sole. But I think 3 sachets is enough. You can't do better than that. After opening the ceramic coated outsole, scale still remained there. Apparently, there is no way to delete it. There is not much scale there. So I think that this scale will not interfere with the passage of hot steam, and this is the best result. Next, I will experiment on the sole from Philips. This iron was given to me for free at a clothing studio, but there, as you can see, there was too much lint, scale, and slag. This iron worked there every day and, apparently, for many hours after cooking in a frying pan and settling in this water. Then drying, and that's what happened. Dried lint cannot be removed by any chemical means. Even after 3 sachets, you have to pick out the scale with a screwdriver. And here's the next iron. They gave it away for free from the same studio, as it stopped working after 2 months. That is, the heating element burned down. It is unclear why it burned down, but I'm showing you how much lint has accumulated during this time. It did not fall off and did not stick to the carbon deposits due to the fact that practically no water was poured into the water container, so there is scale, but only a little. As you can see, the metal is pretty clean. There is only a small scale in one place, and you should not pay attention to it. So, let's continue. The iron is twisted. After cutting the rivets and scraping off the high-temperature sealant, I open the aluminum lid. This iron was used at home, so there wasn't much carbon inside. This is what the inside of the sole looks like before applying the chemical. And then I decided to use just 1 sachet. After 3 minutes of cooking and settling in this water, I rinsed it with pressurized water and dried everything. And that's what happened. Most of the carbon deposits have been removed, but you can't expect a better result from one sachet. Thus, it became clear that it does not matter which iron you take for cleaning and rinsing. At least 3 bags of chemicals. As you can see, there is enough scale left. However, the main scum has been removed. But when the lid is in place, on the rivets, and on the sealant, you will not see this plaque. It is impossible to see this scale through the small holes, and it is impossible to remove the aluminum cover, which is on the rivets and on the sealant, and then put it back in place. And yet she looks much better. With such a small coating, you will be good at passing steam. And then we move on to another sole from the Fall Company. I repeat, everything is the same as before. I boil 1 sachet, soak it in this water, and dry it. And this is a perfectly acceptable result. So, if you decide to clean the metal sole inside of scale and debris, what will you need for this? A set of screwdrivers with different tips, universal grease in D40, and 3 bags for descaling. So let's get started. First, you need to disassemble the plastic case. All modern irons are disassembled in the same way with only minor deviations. To do this, you will need to watch any video clip with the name of your iron's company, such as Philips, TFL, Vitek, and so on. Regardless of the numbers 90, 120, 211, the principle of parsing is the same on all irons. It is impossible to remove the sealed plug for wires with a screwdriver. He bent the plastic ribs, but never opened them. But it was worth using 2 screwdrivers, and the plug was easily removed. But the most difficult thing was to unscrew the front screw. So, on all irons, therefore, you will definitely have to apply WD-40. After that, the screw can be easily unscrewed. I tried to soak it in water for a day, but nothing worked. So, the sole is ready for further action. You buy 3 bags of the same type. They are usually sold in hardware stores. You will need a frying pan or other container to fit the sole of the iron in it, as well as a kettle with boiling water. We put 3 sachets in a frying pan and pour boiling water from the kettle where the sole is located, on a gas or other stove. Bring the water to a boil and wait for 2 to 3 minutes. No more, otherwise the ceramic sole will turn white. After cooling, fill the water tank and pans with water without heating. Although 1 sachet of citric acid is enough for a water tank, and the water cannot be heated, and without heating everything will be well cleaned. Then, under water pressure, we wash the inside of the sole. There are many different descaling chemicals. They are expensive and no better than the ones I showed you earlier. I have previously used all these chemicals to remove scale from slags and washing machines. Since there was no positive effect, I had to split the plastic tank from the inside of the tank and scraped out at least 4 liters of garbage from the lower hoses, since in 10 years of work, the neighbor had never used chemicals, although she washed every day. So, let's continue. It is necessary to seal the bottom holes on the water tank. If you have glue rods, it is very convenient to use them to seal holes. You can buy them at any stationery store. And using a lighter, these holes can be sealed. In this case, the main thing is not to rush. The molten glue will not harm the plastic case in any way. The next layer of heated hot melt adhesive is applied after the previous glue has solidified on the case. The hole is sealed so that the liquid that you pour into the descaling tank inside the tank does not leak out. You can pour both a cooled liquid with 3 sachets and 1 sachet of citric acid into it for a day. Since the scale inside the water tank is not very large and there are no such high temperatures, the scale and slag are easily removed without heating the water. After the glue has solidified, inspect whether there are any holes that are not sealed. Since the glue is still hot, they are not visible, after which they are finally sealed. There are 2 or 3 small holes on the body for steam outlet. They all need to be sealed. Just don't seal up the extra holes. As you can see, there are other holes in the housing, but they are not designed for water and steam to escape. After that, you can pour the liquid. But there is an easier way to plug the hole. We cut out a piece of a dish sponge 3 times the size of the hole and use cellophane to plug the hole. In this sample, I demonstrate how this is done, but unfortunately, there will be no high tightness here. Small holes are plugged in the same way from the water tank. Drops of liquid will still seep through the cellophane to drip. Therefore, place a large plate under the water tank. Then dip other small parts from this iron into the same liquid. And this is what a tank looks like using a single sachet of citric acid. the liquid that I poured in the evening and drained in the morning. After that, we removed the hot glue from the holes, and it is removed quite easily. No effort is required to make sure that not a speck of it remains. Otherwise, during assembly, water will seep through this speck in the future. And I'll tell you why I took up this problem. My iron began to emit steam poorly from below when ironing. You have to constantly press the top button to release additional steam. Although, when it was new, steam came out of the holes evenly by itself. In general, steam has become poorly supplied, even if I press the upper steam button. So, if you like this video, then subscribe and like it. And here I demonstrate how it releases steam after 1 sachet of citric acid. Apparently, I didn't remove all the scum, since I remember well when it was new and how well it worked. There is still a difference. Now I have experience, and in the future, I will use 3 descaling sachets. Nevertheless, for the best steam output, you have to press the top button. I want to note that ironing with steam has become much easier. And this is the end of the review of cleaning the inner part of the sole.